When we think about the descendants of Adam and Eve, the immediate focus is often on Cain and Abel, arguably the most famous children of humanity's first parents. Their tale, marked by jealousy, murder, and divine judgment, dominates much of the early biblical narrative. But there's more to the story of Adam and Eve's lineage than what we commonly know. The daughters of Adam and Eve, often overshadowed by their more infamous brothers, have their own stories, tales of survival, lineage, and the continuity of humankind. These daughters are a mystery, not only in the Bible but in various religious traditions and apocryphal texts that paint a fuller picture of the first family of humankind. Who were these daughters? How many of them existed? And why has their story been largely forgotten or ignored? In this video, we will dive deep into ancient texts like the Book of Jubilees, as well as the Bible and ancient Jewish traditions, to uncover the untold stories of the daughters of Adam and Eve. Their role in shaping humanity is significant, yet shrouded in mystery. Let's explore their place in history, faith, and the evolution of humankind. The Genesis narrative is a sparse one when it comes to Adam and Eve's daughters. The Bible mentions in Genesis 5:4-5 that Adam fathered sons and daughters after the birth of Seth, but no names or specific details are given. This omission has left many to wonder about these unnamed daughters who would have played crucial roles in populating the earth. However, ancient Jewish traditions, particularly those found in texts like the Book of Jubilees, offer more clues. In these lesser-known writings, we find tantalizing references to the daughters of Adam and Eve, names like Avon and Azura, who are tied to significant figures in early human history. According to the Book of Jubilees, the first daughter of Adam and Eve was named Avon. In Phoenician Hebrew, her name means potency or vice. This name alone gives us a sense of her importance, and indeed she was the first woman after Eve and the first female born in the world. Avon's story is interwoven with that of Cain, her brother. As was customary in the early days of humanity, siblings married each other to propagate the human race. Avon became the wife of Cain, and their union gave birth to a son named Enoch, who would go on to be a figure of great significance in both the Bible and other ancient texts. The Bible itself mentions Cain's son Enoch in Genesis 4:17, where it states that Cain built a city and named it after his son. The city of Enoch represents the beginning of human civilization, an early attempt to establish a society after the devastating crime Cain had committed. Though Cain is remembered for his sin, Avon played a pivotal role in continuing his line, and thus, the human race. Interestingly, in the Cave of Treasures, another apocryphal text, Avon is referred to by another name, Kalima. The use of different names in various traditions shows the ancient belief in her significance, yet the details of her life remain elusive. What we do know is that Avon Kalima, the first daughter of Adam and Eve, played an essential role in the early days of humankind's existence. Azura, the second daughter of Adam and Eve, holds a unique place in the history of humanity. Unlike her sister Avon, whose legacy is tied to Cain's infamous lineage, Azura's story is one of righteousness and faith. She became the wife of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, born after the death of Abel. The significance of Seth in biblical and religious tradition cannot be overstated. After Abel's tragic death at the hands of Cain, Seth was seen as a replacement, a divine gift to Adam and Eve. Genesis 4:25 tells us that Eve considered Seth a substitute for Abel, and Seth went on to become the ancestor of all humanity through Noah and his descendants. According to the Book of Jubilees, Azura was originally Abel's betrothed. After Abel's murder, she became Seth's wife, continuing the righteous line that would eventually lead to figures like Noah, Abraham, and ultimately Jesus in the Christian tradition. In many ways, Azura represents hope and continuity in the face of tragedy. Her union with Seth ensured that the line of Adam and Eve would endure. The Book of Jubilees even provides a timeline for Azura's life. She was born in the 6th week of the 4th Jubilee, and she married Seth in the 5th week of the 5th Jubilee. They had a son named Enosh, who played a significant role in the early religious practices of humanity. Enosh, the son of Seth and Azura, is mentioned briefly in the Bible, but his impact on religious tradition is profound. In Genesis 4:26, we learn that people began to call on the name of the Lord during the days of Enosh. This passage suggests that Enosh helped to re-establish the worship of God after a period of moral decline. He is often credited with being one of the first to lead humanity back to God, continuing the legacy of his parents, Seth and Azura. Enosh also marks the beginning of the genealogy that leads to Noah, the key figure in the story of the Great Flood. Without Seth, Azura, and their son Enosh, the world as we know it might have taken a very different course. These early descendants of Adam and Eve were not just biological ancestors, they were spiritual leaders who helped to guide humanity through its earliest days. While the Bible does not specify how many children Adam and Eve had, it does suggest that they had many sons and daughters over the course of their long lives. Genesis 5:4-5 tells us that Adam lived for 930 years and fathered many children. Given their long lifespans and the need to populate the earth, it is likely that Adam and Eve had dozens, if not hundreds, of offspring. Eve, as the first woman, is often considered the most fertile human in history. In fact, some scholars and religious traditions suggest that she gave birth to over 70 children. This incredible fertility ensured that humanity would spread across the earth, fulfilling God's command to be fruitful and multiply. One fascinating modern parallel to Eve's fertility is the case of Valentina Vasilyev, a woman from the 18th century who reportedly gave birth to 69 children. While this is an extraordinary number by modern standards, it pales in comparison to the fertility of Eve, who lived for nearly a millennium and had an essential role in populating the earth. One of the lesser-known aspects of the story of Adam and Eve's descendants is the role their children played in the ethnic and racial diversity of humanity. While traditional interpretations of the Bible suggest that all people descended from Adam and Eve, modern scientific studies, particularly those involving mitochondrial DNA, have provided evidence that supports this idea. Mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down through the maternal line, traces all humans back to a single common ancestor, often referred to as mitochondrial Eve. This discovery aligns with the biblical narrative that all of humanity shares a common origin in Adam and Eve, even as we have diversified into many different ethnicities and races. The daughters of Adam and Eve in particular would have played a significant role in spreading this diversity. As they married their brothers and had children, they contributed to the development of the various human populations that would later spread across the earth. In this way, the daughters of Adam and Eve were not just the mothers of individual families, they were the mothers of entire nations and peoples. The stories of the daughters of Adam and Eve, while often overlooked, are an essential part of understanding the early days of humanity. Figures like Avon and Azura, while not as well known as their brothers, played critical roles in shaping the human race and continuing the line of Adam and Eve. These daughters represent the continuity of life, the spread of civilization, and the spiritual legacy of the first family. While the Bible may be silent on many of their details, ancient traditions and texts like the Book of Jubilees offer us a glimpse into their lives and the important roles they played. As we reflect on the stories of these women, we are reminded that history is often shaped not just by the famous figures we know, but by those who work quietly behind the scenes, carrying on the legacy of their ancestors and shaping the future of humanity. If you've enjoyed learning about the untold stories of Adam and Eve's daughters, don't forget to leave a comment or suggest other topics from Scripture that you'd like to explore. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history and faith.